Hi, guys. It's Leslie Timble here from Mental Iron. I just did a podcast with Dave Palumbo on iron therapy. We were talking about imposter syndrome. So, for those who don't know, let me define what imposter syndrome is. So, it's basically imposter syndrome, and the short form is IS. So, I'll be using that acronym. So, imposter syndrome is IS. It's basically believing that you're not as competent as you think you are. So you have a lot of self-doubt about your capabilities, despite having education, accomplishments, any type of achievements, that would indicate otherwise. So other times people would say, well, is it a mental illness? No, it's not a mental illness. It is a lot of self-doubt. There's a lot of shame involved with IS, but it's more people who are that fear that they're going to be exposed as a fraud. Now, these aren't people who are actually frauds. These are people who are legit, but they don't believe that they have enough knowledge to qualify themselves as experts in their field. Again, this is despite having knowledge or accomplishments, education to back that up. So, who is most likely to have imposter syndrome? A lot of times it's high achieving individuals because they're raised to a certain standard. They have, let's say, whether it's a certain following of people, but what they want to do is be able to consistently present that they know what they're talking about. So when you've got more eyeballs on you, then you want people to see you as legit, but there's that fear that someone's going to, find out that no, they're not as legit as they claim to be. And that's what the fear is. Now, does that mean that when you have imposter syndrome, you can't have IS? No, you can have IS at every level. In fact, everybody is capable of having IS. You don't necessarily have to, but you can. Thoughts on J Masters? Okay, John, what's J Masters? Help me out with that one. And welcome to my channel, by the way. Type it in, if you don't mind typing in the chat so I can expand. I don't know J Masters. Powerlift. I don't know him. I'm sorry. Tell me a little bit more about Jay. Do you think he has imposter syndrome? Is it that he has some type of insecurity about his ability to be a power lifter? Okay. So he's probably constantly, and correct me if I'm wrong, because again, I don't know him, John, but if what you're saying is that Jay may have imposter syndrome, I'm going to talk about 5 different types. I'm going to go over them really quickly, and I want you to tell me which one Jay might fit under. And then also anyone else in the chat, let me know. He did a 505 for a double. Oh my gosh, that's impressive. No, he probably wasn't impressed by that, right? Is it ever good enough? Here's the thing. A lot of times, and I'm gonna focus on Jay because that's who you're bringing up, John. But this can be anybody, anyone with imposter syndrome. Never. So never meaning it's never good enough. I just want to make sure I understand correctly. He never thinks it's good enough. Okay. And that's the thing. There's a difference between wanting to strive to become better and not accepting, hey, I got 505 for a double. Now I'm going to crush it next time I do it. There's a difference between, oh crap, I only got 505 for a double. I don't know if you can notice the difference in the attitude there. So I don't know if that's where Jay is, the latter of kind of like beating himself up almost, because he only did, I put that in air quotes, only did 505 for a double, which I think is pretty damn impressive. Okay, so let me go over the 5 types really quickly. And then again, you tell me, guys, whether, and for you, John, let me know which one that Jay fits under. And if anyone's watching this, let me know if you fit under one of these. And I'm going to coach you guys on how to address imposter syndrome, okay? So one of them, and these are in no particular order, okay? I'm just giving you the 5. So one is basically the perfectionist. A lot of athletes fit under this category, just so you know. But they set these excessively high goals for themselves. I'm already thinking this could be Jay, but again, I'm just going to put this out there. So basically, when they fail to reach a goal, they experience self-doubt, they experience worrying, that they're not measuring up, let's say, to other competitors. They're not measuring up to what the audience expects them to do. They also can be control freaks. Now, what do I mean by that? If something isn't done their way, they'd just rather do it themselves. It's like, no, I got this. Let me do the setup. I don't trust anyone to set this up, the bar up for me. I'm going to do it, kind of thing. Okay. I'm just giving you examples. I'm not saying you have to tick all these boxes. I'm just trying to give you an idea. When I say imposter syndrome, the perfectionist, some of the qualities that go in this. And it's not productive. This is not productive or healthy because it's important to own and celebrate your achievements, like doing the 505 for a double. That's really important to avoid burnout. You need some type of encouragement to push yourself, not negativity to keep yourself down. Okay? Because we all like constructive criticism. We want to know that if we're not doing well, be honest with us because we want to do better. But if you're basically, whether it's you or let's say somebody else shitting on you all the time, that doesn't feel good. Now, some people actually like that, but most people like a little bit of constructive feedback to saying, hey, you know what? You did this good, but you know what? I do want you to work on this, this, and this. Okay, that's at least constructive. But a lot of times it's also what we say to ourselves. We're not really nice to ourselves, by the way. We're actually our worst critics. And with the perfectionists, it's important to learn to take, if they make mistakes. Now, not saying that Jay made a mistake here, but if he made a mistake, he would take that personally. That would destroy him mentally. Brad threw his yeah, okay, said they weren't as effective. So it's kind of that frustration, that extreme frustration. If you can't get your target goal, whatever that goal is, that it's literally what we call black and white thinking. So it's all or nothing. It's either it's got to go my way and it's got to be perfect. I have to be able to hit this on the first try, or I'm a failure, kind of thing. And again, I'm not saying that he is a failure. I'm saying that's his perception, that he could have him, that could be thinking of himself as a failure. So one way actually to help for people who are, let me actually give the tools as I go through these types, is basically, forcing himself to enjoy the little triumphs. Now that's going to be hard. I don't know. A lot of people can't do this on their own. And that's why they need someone like myself. I'm not just a registered psychotherapist. I'm also a mental game coach for athletes. I do both. So I help people with personal issues that interfere with work performance, as well as sports related stuff. So I could help someone like Jay to be able to learn, because basically we have to rewire the brain. We have to teach it that, yes, you can be negative, but let's put this negative in a different spin. Okay. So it's not just constant criticism, it's pushing him forward. He's not allowing himself to basically celebrate any of his victories. So he thinks that the harder I am on myself, and I could be wrong, so let me know, John, but the harder I am on myself, if I'm Jay, this power lifter, is if I'm not hard on myself, I'll get lazy. That's the thinking. That's not what would happen, but that's what he's afraid of. That if I let off on the gas, then I'll get lazy, I'll get complacent, I'm not going to hit my numbers. So I always have to be hard on myself. This is also why growing up, I don't know if, also, people may be able to relate that if you have a parent, that's very on you all the time. And you might be like, why are you guys on me all the time? Can I not breathe? And they think, and it's not always done in the best way, but sometimes parents think that if I'm really hard on my kid, that's going to make them stronger. It's going to make them more resilient. Depending on how they do it, it can, but it can also go the other way. So you have to be careful about that. Okay, so that's just, again, that's one. Another category of imposter syndrome is what we call Superwoman or Superman. So what do I mean by that? So basically, they're convinced that they're phonies. So they already think that they're a phony. So they push themselves harder to measure up to their colleagues. So this can also be Jay. he wants to push himself. Now, I'm not saying he necessarily thinks he's a phony, but if he doesn't have confidence in himself, that's where the phoniness can actually be in there. So just saying, hey, I'm a power lifter. I want to be respected by my colleagues, by my competitors. So I just have to push myself that harder. And if I only got 5 out of 5, I am not going to be able to say, or I'm not going to get the respect. I'm not saying he wouldn't. Again, that's the thinking. So again, John, only you can say if that's going to be more, I don't know if he would be under that or the Superman. But again, I'm going to go through all 5 and you let me know which ones he fits under. So now, I don't know if you know anything about Jay and his off time. Does he have off time? Some people, and this is under the Superman, Superwoman category, they feel that if they're not working on their, in this case, powerlifting, Jay's a powerlifter. So in this case, if he's not, if I'm a powerlifter and I'm not working on my craft, on my powerlifting, then I'm wasting time. Every minute of every day should be either planning, training, eating towards it, something towards it, but everything and no leisure. There's no such thing as leisure time. Again, this is according to the Superman or the Superwoman. So what they do is in fact, if they get rest where they're not doing anything, and let's say they're burnt out, like they had a really hard day, they had a great training session, and they actually even wanted a nap because they were so bloody tired. They would feel guilty about taking that nap, even though their body needed it, because that was a waste of time, or that would be considered, again, I'm not saying that's right, but I'm saying they would be considered a waste of time. Because any downtime, again, is not going towards the sport. It's not making them the best that they need to be. That's more that Superwoman, Superman kind of complex. So this problem is that working hard, there's nothing wrong with working hard, and you're going to put a lot of hours in. Some people put way more hours in their sport than they would in a job. When you want to compete at the top level, yes, that's going to happen. So, so it's important to be able to say, okay, work overload, there is such a thing as being a workaholic, even from a job standpoint. When you do your sport, there is a possibility of overdoing it in your sport. And if you overdo it, the problem is that we have one body, we've got joints, we've got muscles. And assuming you don't want to go through surgery, if you do too much on your body and it can only handle so much and you don't give it time to recover, it's going to start to break down in some respect, or you could be more prone to injury. And obviously no one wants to be injured. So you can overdo it, and that's the dangers of doing that Superman, Superwoman category. So it's important to be able to understand that yes, it's good to have the validation from your sport, but you have to also be cognizant that balance, into some degree, it won't be a perfect balance. To balance, to have some type of external stuff would be important, such as rest, such as some time with the family or your friends, or let's say watching Netflix. I'm not talking about a long period of time, and it may not be every day, but getting some snippets in to get your mind off of your sport for small segments of the day is important. That's what I mean by the balance piece. And then there's something also called imposter workaholics. So let me go across from the sport for a second. So from people who work, a lot of people work, let's say the 9 to 5 or something like that. Let's say Monday to Friday. Imposter workaholics are basically addicted to the validation from working, not to the work itself, but the fact that they put in all these extra hours. So it's important to kind of start training yourself, if you fall into that category, to steer away from external validation. Again, no one should have more power to make you feel good about yourself than you. And you need to learn how to take constructive criticism seriously, but not personally. You take constructive criticism seriously because to saying, what can I improve upon, but not take it personally as that this is an attack against you. It's again, if it's constructive criticism, it's meant to make you a better person, a better, in this case, let's say if we talk about Jay Masters, the power lifter, being a power lifter. If it's done instead of saying, oh, they think I'm shit. No, they don't think you're shit. They're trying to give you constructive criticism so you can compete at your best. I don't know if that makes sense. Hopefully it makes sense. But if you guys have questions, post them in the chat. Another category, the third category, remember there's 5. The third category of imposter syndrome is what we call the natural genius. So what do I mean by that? They judge their competence based on the ease and speed that they learn something. So what do I mean by that? If it takes them a long time to master something, there's a lot of feelings of shame because they have this expectation in their head, I should just be able to do this on the first try. Not the second, not the third, first. So even though they may have never done something before, they feel that they have to get this nailed down the first time. That's what I mean by the natural genius. It just comes naturally. But my challenge is, how often does that happen? Now, I'm not saying there aren't gifted people out there that can't graduate, like as far as, some people are, let's say, built to squat, as an example, better than other people. I'm not saying that there isn't genetics that can definitely help people, whether they're bodybuilders, powerlifters, or any other kind of sport. But it's that expectation that they have to get it the first time. That's what makes that the natural genius in the imposter syndrome. So basically, they get used to excelling without much effort. So let me use the school example. Let's go off. And I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but in school, let's say you do really well in public school. And let's say you do really well in even high school. But all of a sudden, because it comes easy, you didn't even have to go to classes half the time. And this is before COVID, but you didn't have to go to classes. And then when you went to university or college, what happened? All of a sudden, marks go down. It's not that you're not smart. It's because a lot of times the teaching in university and in college is a little different. And you have to have certain skills already in place as far as practicing, as far as, do you know how to study properly? Some people don't. And because let's say they have a photographic memory. So what I mean by that is sometimes people can just look at a book and they remember all the text. Okay, it's great that you can memorize stuff, but can you apply it in a real situation? In university and college, especially in the upper grades, it's not just regurgitating information. They're going to give you case studies. And now you got to interpret those. Well, if you're not used to that, because that's not necessarily if you have a photographic memory, you won't do really well in those unless you practice those skills or you get help practicing those skills. So, sorry, John, you said Brad said that. Sorry, what did Brad say? Can you go into, okay, what did who are we talking? Brad said that. I'm not sure what you meant. John, can you clarify for me when you said Brad said that? I'm not even sure what Brad you're talking about. I think I might have missed something here. And then, do you think perfectionists are prone to alcoholism? They can be, but I don't think it's necessarily being a perfectionist that makes you an alcoholic. But I can see how, when someone doesn't get their expectations met, what do? We want to feel better because no one likes to feel shitty. Okay. So what do people do? They find ways of trying to make themselves feel a little bit better. Is alcohol one of them? Yes. Is it recommended? No. But could they be? Sure, they could. But there are alcoholics out there that are not perfectionists, but I can see where you're going with this, that it can, not necessarily, it doesn't mean all perfectionists are going to be alcoholics. Jay said Taco Queen runs Brad's life. Okay, I'm not sure of these people, so I'm not sure what this all means. So if you want my comments, let me know what you're asking me in this so I can address that. And while you're typing, I'm going to go over the natural genius. So if you're a natural genius in the imposter syndrome category, rather than beating yourself up when you don't immediately reach your goal, because remember, they want to reach it the first time, I would rather I would say identify the specific changeable behaviors that you can improve over time, because it's not realistic. So their expectations have to be managed. It's not realistic to get everything the first time around. Even the best of the best in the world have to practice at things. So, whether you look at the best power lifter, the best bodybuilder, the best, goat of anything, any sport or business, they didn't learn everything right off the top. You aren't either. But you can learn to saying, okay, so if you didn't get it the first time, let's break that down, learn from it, and improve upon those skills. So that's what you would do with someone who is that natural genius. The other is the soloist. The soloist is a category where they feel that asking for help actually reveals their phoniness. They think it's a sign of weakness. They should know all the answers. They're supposed to be the expert, so they should have the answers. But no one has all the answers, but they're very much of the, I don't need anyone's help. I got this. I don't need a coach. Let's say if you're a bodybuilder, let's say if you're a trainer, I know how to train. I help coach other people get ready for shows. I don't need a coach. That's the soloist. Now they can know what to do, but if anyone who's gone through a prep knows that when you go through a prep, especially when portions go down and certain carbs go down, you can't really see yourself in the mirror the same way. And then your judgment goes a little awry sometimes, especially during peak week, because you get in your head with the pressure. You look at people on social media sometimes and you compare yourself, or you see people backstage and some people are carving up on a Snickers bar. And you're like, well, should I, carve up on a Snickers bar? If you haven't been working with your coach, carving up in a Snickers bar, don't introduce anything new, please. But again, this is where you get advice from other people. It's not a sign of weakness, but that's what soloists think, that it is a sign of weakness, because they don't want they feel that sense of shame that they actually have to ask people for help. And it's basically getting them to see that, if anything, it's going to help you, not hurt you. And again, a lot of times people can't do this on their own, so they need help to be able to do that. So let me just quickly go through the chat. I want to make sure I get this. You play to win the game, right? Yes. Okay. So Hitler, yes. So when I'm in the process of competing again, so I've been competing for a while, and I'm doing a show October 1st, a regional show in Canada, and then I'll be going to the Amateur Olympia, December 13th in Vegas. So I'm doing both of those shows, and am I going there to win? Absolutely. But I do not expect to win. So here's the difference. I train knowing I'm not going to leave anything unturned. I've already contacted a posing coach. I'm training my ass off. I have constant communication with my coach. I'm staying accountable. I'm on plan. Everything is where it should be. And I have my expectations that, yes, I'm lining up what I can. I'm going to do, because there's certain things you can control, which is within my control, as far as, do I stick to my diet? Do I train? Do I communicate with my coach? Am I doing everything? If I'm getting my ducks lined up, basically. Am I going to get my hair and makeup professionally done? Yes. Am I tan done? Yes. All this kind of stuff. So that's within my control. So yes. Are there things outside of my control? Of course there are. I can't control that stuff. And sometimes, I can't control if there's somebody, and this has happened so many times, someone that comes, out of nowhere and they look amazing. I can get in my head, and I have, backstage thinking, crap, they're going to crush me. Then because of my training, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to oppose them. Because sometimes, and I've seen this happen, and I've seen it because I've watched a lot of bodybuilding shows, that people give away their placings because they didn't pose. They didn't get any posing practice. They just winged it. Or they were really rusty and they didn't put really any effort into it, and it shows. So then you can really capitalize on showing the judges your strengths and trying to hide those weaknesses. I also put effort into the routine, even though the routine isn't marked. but it's trying to go in there saying, I'm giving my best. So I'm giving my best. Whatever happens, happens. Now, if I don't win, which happens many times, I'll be in the top 5, but I may not win. Do I feel a little disappointed? Of course I do. But is it going to affect my self-esteem, who I am as a person? No, because I know I did everything and I checked all the boxes. Someone was able to bring in a better package. It happens. But keep in mind, why? What is your why? For me, what is my why for competing? Yes, do I want to win? Of course, on a superficial level, yes. But there's a deeper meaning for me. It's one, I like the challenge. Now, depending on where I am, usually 3 weeks out, I start to not like it so much. But overall, I like the challenge. And to be able to get on stage. I'm on stage with people 20, 30 years younger than I am, and I'm competing them on stage. At the end of the month, guys, I turn 54, okay? I'm on stage with 20 and 30-year-olds. So it's kind of like, hey, this is not too bad. So if I come in second place to someone half my age, that's a pretty good, to me, that's a really good accomplishment. So for me, that's a win. Even if I didn't technically win or get first place or overall or whatever, it's a win. So it's also how you define it too. And it's not my identity as far as winning or not winning. If I get first, second, third, whatever my place is, that's not my identity. My identity is I'm an athlete. I'm a registered psychotherapist. I'm a mother. I'm a friend. I'm a coach. I'm a whole bunch of these things. This is my identity. Basically, I love helping people. This is my deal. I love this stuff. So find something that, a deeper why about why you do this. Because I also like to, I started the game, for anyone who doesn't know me, I didn't start competing until I was 45. Most people are retired by the age of 45 or around that age. I started at 45, and that's really hard to do. So I want to inspire people that if they decided to, let's say for women, if they decided to stay home with the kids, because keep in mind, a lot of guys that make it to the top, if they have families, it's because they have a supporting partner. And I'd like to use Brandon Curry as a great example because his wife is, I don't know if you've ever met or seen her on video. She's such a lovely person, and she's so supportive of Brandon and takes care of the kids. That's a lot of work on her. So if you have that support, really solid, support network, then yes, you can do that. But if he didn't have a Brandy, I don't know if he'd be able to do what he does because he would have to help out with the kids. And that's hard. So, it depends on circumstances. What one person's circumstances isn't necessarily the same as another. Now I want to make sure I address your questions. Okay. So Hibbler, if you have any further questions, let me know. Oh, wait a second. You should compete in Ruby Classic South Florida sometime. I might consider that next year. Because here's the thing, Hibbler, when you get to be my age, and I use that hesitantly, I don't mind competing at all. But the reality is my body, I've done 5 shows before in 1 year, and that my body did not respond really well, and I paid for it the following year. So I think 2, maybe 3, but really 2 shows a year is probably the best for my body to be able to bounce back, especially again, because I am turning 54 at the end of the month. So the body doesn't bounce back as well. And I know some people do get better with more shows. My body is not one of them. But if you're a competitor that does get better with more shows, by all means. And the other thing is, as you probably know, the cost of everything has gone up. Flights are crazy. Obviously, everyone's touched by, food prices are crazy high. And obviously, gas is really high. And in Canada, we get over, 50% of our income taxed. So we don't even get to keep it. So you're almost being punished for being an entrepreneur in Canada. But that's another rant for another day. But, so it's more of the affordability. I'm not a sponsored athlete, so I pay for everything. So it's hard. I would not mind doing a show in Florida, in fact. there's a few shows I would like to do in the States. Now I'm from Canada, so as of right now, I'm in Canada. I will be going down to Vegas probably at the beginning of November for 6 months. So I'll do the Olympia. I'm also going to try to get a work visa. Now, even if I got a work visa down there, I think it takes like a year to 2 years to process. So I'll be going back and forth 6 months in Canada, 6 months in the US. So until I get that work visa or green card eventually, I can't necessarily, I have to pick shows where I'm in the city or the country I'm allowed to be in. So if that show in Florida doesn't fit within that range, then I can't do it. That actually happened to me last year because there was a show I wanted to do last year, but I wasn't going to still be in Canada, in the US. I had to be back in Canada, so I wasn't going to be able to compete, which I was really bummed out about. But no, I would love to do Rudy show for sure. Go to the Las Vegas Lounge. When I was in Vegas, John, I was there for 6 months. Now, tell me, how nerdy is this? I had my rental that I was in. There was the gym. I went to the Dragon's Lair, which, by the way, I love the Dragon's Lair. Flex Lewis is amazing. And there's a lot of other cool people there. And the grocery store. Oh, and the gas station. Those were the 4 places that I went to. I didn't go to a restaurant. I didn't go to a bar. I didn't even go to a show. How nerdy is that? That's what we call the bodybuilding lifestyle. So next time I go, which again I will be going to Vegas in November. I plan on going to at least one show. And I want to go to at least one restaurant. So I'm going to try to get out a little bit more, but I'm going to be really hitting the pavement hard on trying to get that work visa because I need to get out of Canada, guys. I have family here and I don't mind visiting, but I really want to move. I want to become a US citizen permanently. Now, there was a question here. Do you think it's harder to build the upper body if you have the lower body? Okay, so if you have, let's say, quads and hams, it can be harder to build the upper body. I have the reverse. So I can have the upper body, it comes in for me a little bit easier. Legs are really hard for me to come in. I've been working on them for years and years and years and I do 2 leg sessions, more quad dominant and then a hamstring dominant day twice a week. It takes them a long time. They're very stubborn. So whether it's the lower body, upper body, you can definitely have body parts that are harder to bring up for sure. So, so let's say you have the lower body, you have a problem building the upper. Yes. So yeah, it can definitely be, because I know a lot of people in my gym. I go to a really good gym. So in Canada does have some good gyms, not a lot, but they have some good gyms. And the one I go to is in Burlington. It's called Pure Muscle and Fitness. It's a great gym. There's just to give you an idea, and I never counted. I really have to go back and count. There's at least 10 leg presses in this gym. So it's like, if you ever want to do leg day, there's no shortage of equipment. They've got so many different types of leg presses too. And it's not just legs. They have other equipment too, but it's massive. And actually they're expanding. So it's an awesome gym. But there are people I've met in that gym, to answer your question, that have the lower body and they have a hard time building up their upper body. So that can definitely happen. So in order to be able to address that, what they've told me is what they do is they have to, it has to do with their training split, but what they will try to do is to get their upper body, depending on what the areas are, whether it's their, so let's say if their upper body, it could be their chest, it could be their back, could be their arms, it might be all of the above. You might want to hit those twice a week because those are your weaker body parts. But again, if anything, if you really want to maximize this, I would say, get a coach to kind of help you to bring that up. And sometimes you get what you pay for. So be careful. Now, if you don't have the funds, you know what? Google, guys. Google. And also, if you follow there's a lot of good bodybuilding channels out there that give out some solid information as far as training. Look into the legitimate ones, the ones that have been around a long time. There's so many podcasts out there. If you want some ideas, like Fuad, I don't know if you know Fuad Abiad, he has an amazing channel. Think Big, bodybuilding, it's just bodybuilding. They have a lot of good stuff there too. Like there's a lot of good stuff out there. You have to be careful for anyone who hasn't competed and they're like a social influencer. Be careful. They have their place. So I think everyone should have a right to have their channel, but be careful where you get your sources of information from. So yeah, so you can definitely have stronger body parts than others for sure. Let me see what else is in here. How about the Hoover Dam? No, you know what? I'm not against doing this. In fact, in Vegas, there's mountains. You'd think I'd go to the mountains at least once because I'm from Canada, so I don't see mountain where I am in Canada. I don't see mountains. So when I got to Vegas, I'm like, cool, there's mountains. I got to make it there. Never made it there. I would see it every day as I'm driving to the gym, the mountains, thinking, I got to go to the mountains. And I still never did. So I really got to get to the mountains. So maybe I'll do a YouTube live at the mountains. So I'll say, finally made it, guys. But no, I really got to get out more. This is my problem. I just don't get out more. I'm a bit of a hermit sometimes, especially when I'm in prep. I'm kind of a little hermit. Okay, so my good friend Dale Chance did a show. He came in. Awesome. John, so okay, your good friend Dale, what category was he in? Do you know? That's awesome. He came in third. And was that his first show? His coach said his back didn't respond to the diet. Okay. In order to respond, it might be the training. He needs to train it a little differently to bring up the back. There are certain body parts, honestly, that are so friggin' stubborn that it requires someone with a lot of experience to really help you get that body part up. Because sometimes it's like you try every which way and it's like, why can't I grow this sucker? So, okay, so let's see. His coach says, okay. So John, I would say, whether his coach or get some other advice from other people as far as bringing up his back. Because back is an important part. Leslie, if anyone gives you crap for not having fun, just tell them you're too busy eating, sleeping, and growing. Hitler, show me my... That's awesome. I love that. Yeah. You know what? Do you know who gives me crap for not having fun? Especially when I was in Vegas, was my coach. He said, Leslie, you're too serious. Sometimes you got to have fun. So now to his credit, okay, my coach is a very renowned coach, the one I use in Vegas, and it's Neil Hill. So that's actually Flex Lewis's coach. He knows his stuff. He was saying this after the shows were done. Okay. So when I was done the Amateur Olympia last year, that's when he was telling me to have a little bit more fun. So, I get what you're saying, Hitler, and thank you. But there are people, to your point, that told me, to have fun, and I was still in prep. And I'm like, no, you know what? If I have fun in when I'm prep, again, it depends on the definition of fun. For some people, that's like drinking and eating whatever. And that's great. I'm not stopping anyone from doing that. But I'm just saying I can't be around that environment because I don't want to cheat on my diet. And then some people are really awesome and they'll just bring their food in, let's say in their Tupperware, and they'll go to the restaurant with their friends, and their friends will order whatever and they'll drink, and they're content with their Tupperware, and they'll eat their cod and asparagus or whatever they're eating. I can bring my food. There's nothing that stops me from bringing my food, but it's going to be really hard for me to enjoy my food when I see this other stuff. Especially, I like carbs. I think most of us do. But I'm talking about, when they bring the garlic bread or like the bread, and it's like, they bake it in their oven and they bring out this little container of butter. Well, if you've ever been in prep, butter is not part of and bread is definitely not part of your regimen. So when you smell the bread, it's kind of like, oh, I want a piece of that. So you know what? I don't even want to be around the temptation when I'm in prep. Now, after the show, that's a different story. Then I can probably eat more than a 300-pound bodybuilder. That's a little different. So, but again, you can't do that too long because you don't want to balloon too much. Okay, so, but thank you, Hebler. I appreciate your support. So John, he's Muslim, heavyweight. Wow. And it was his first show? Wow. That's impressive. He's blocky. Looks like a deck of cards. Okay, so heavyweight. He probably needs to also work on getting a bit more of a V taper, because it's when you're a heavyweight, it's easy to have that block blockiness. Now, I don't know if he trains his abs at all. If he does, there's certain ab movements he should not do because they actually make you more blocky. If he needs to do more of the center versus the sides because the sides will build it out. Here's the other thing. Sometimes when you do certain movements, it can actually make your waist bigger. So let's say the certain way you do squats or deads can actually make your waist bigger. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do them. It's just it's a matter of how you're breathing, whether or not you wear a belt, all these fine tuning kind of tricks, but his coach should be able to help him with that. But good for him for doing he's 5'3". Okay, he's 5'3". First show. And that's okay. Yeah. Heavyweight Muslim. Okay. How long has he been with his coach for? And is he happy with his coach? I was debating about doing it. In fact, not even a debate. I was debating when to have the conversation about coaching. Because a lot of times people realize, okay, yeah, I'll get a coach, but how do I know who's a good coach? Because sometimes we'll go to someone in our gym and say, we'll see, okay, if our buddy, someone we know, uses that coach, okay, we'll say, well, do you like that coach? And the person will say yes, to say, okay, I'll try that coach. Be careful. Be careful. What one coach can work for someone, but may not work for another person. And again, I was thinking about doing an episode strictly on that. He works with his coach for a few years. Okay. Chicken shake diet. Does he have digestive issues? Because if he has digestive issues, I can understand why he has a chicken shake diet. Now, how many shakes is he having a day? John, answer that. And while you're answering that, okay. Please tell me it's not 6 meals that he has these shakes. Okay. The reason why I'm saying that, I would say try not to have shakes more than 2 times a day, max. And I mean an absolute max of 3. I would prefer no more than 2. It's better to get your food from actual sources versus grinding it all up. But yeah, because he has digestive issues, there might be other things he can do other than just grinding all his chicken up. I don't know if he takes digestive enzymes. Again, some of these other bodybuilding channels are really good. They know more about this stuff. Like, it's just bodybuilding. Scott McNally is the producer. If you actually hit him up on Instagram and send him a message, or have your friends send him a message, John, he can get back to you or direct you to the episode where they did talk. Because I remember they did talk about digestion and what you can do about it. I just don't remember what it is off the top of my head. But I personally take digestive enzymes, but that may not be enough in his situation. Yeah, they are. Some of them are cocky. Yeah, for sure, Hibbler. Now, feel free to, again, make any other comments, but I just want to make sure I do the, there was 5 categories. I want to make sure I did the 5th one from the imposter syndrome. The 5th one was called, did I even do this one? I don't know. It's the expert. So in case I didn't do the expert. So the expert is based on their competence on what and how much they know or what they can do. So they believe that they'll never know enough. So their fear of being exposed as someone who's very inexperienced in their field and unknowledgeable. Again, this is despite education, accomplishments, achievements, all that kind of stuff, that they feel that, they can't know enough. They're not considered an expert. Now, again, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to want to improve upon your skills. That's fine. But what makes the expert kind of category is, let's say, for people who are watching who aren't into athletics, let me use maybe a job example. Let's say there's a job posting and you want, because you're tired of your job, or let's say, you've outgrown it, you want to get further up in your company, and there's this job posting. And you look at, and you get really excited about it. It's like, this is something I'd like to do. So you look, what are the requirements? So you go over the requirements and you're like, oh, I don't have that. I don't have that. And I don't have that. Okay, I better not apply because I don't have all the job requirements. No, guys, still apply. Again, the expert feels that if I don't check all those boxes in the job posting, that means I should not apply for this job. Apply for it. Apply for it. Because remember, when it comes to the interview process, half of it is getting the applicants to apply. And then when they screen them, even if you don't have everything on there, a willingness to learn, because they will do some training if they think you bring other things to the table. There might be something on on the list that you have and other people don't. And don't underestimate the importance of a good impression, how you demonstrate your personality. Remember, when you're doing a job interview, I know it's nerve-wracking. I do. Go in there interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. What do I mean by that? Have questions for them. Hey, give me an idea, what's the typical day like in this particular position? That's a question. It shows that you're genuinely interested. You're not just one of 500 people applying just because, oh, I want to get out of my job, let me just apply for this. No, you put some thought into it. That makes you stand out if you can ask questions that maybe a lot of other people are not asking, or not as many people are asking. So that's where the expert comes in. I have to check all these boxes before I can do something. So let me bring this to bodybuilding. The expert in the imposter syndrome would be someone who wants to compete. And they're like, oh, my body's not perfect. Let's say, John, let's use your friend, your Muslim friend, who's doing the heavyweight. Even though his back wasn't where it was, the expert wouldn't have gone on stage, okay? He would have waited until his body was acceptable, meaning checking all the boxes of, let's say, a V-taper, like round muscle bellies, a lot of conditioning, like everything, symmetry, everything would have to be checked. And then it's like, okay, I'm ready to do a show. That's the expert. I am not suggesting that whatsoever. I believe that you don't have to be perfect to get on stage, because a lot of other people don't have complete packages. In fact, especially at the amateur level, you're going to get the one-off, yes, and that's more in the pros that you're going to have more complete packages. But it's not complete. And even if someone has a complete package, they can have a bad day, a bad carb up. Stuff can still go wrong. Do not shy away. The worst case scenario is a job position will say no. You just keep trying again. Or at the bodybuilding, maybe you don't place as high. But John, your friend, he did really well. This was his first show and he got third. That's amazing. How did he feel after that? Do you know? Did you have a chance to speak with him about how he felt about placing third at his first show? He might have been disappointed. I don't know. That's why I'm asking. So what I would say is when people fall into that expert category, I would say learn to practice just-in-time learning. So what do I mean by that? Just-in-time learning is acquiring a skill basically when you need it. So if there is something that has changed in your job and it requires you to have a particular skill in something. Let's say you're good at doing, articles, but now all of a sudden your job means you have to present. And that's not something you did before. Well, something that you may want to learn is how to present in front of people. So that's what I mean by just-in-time learning, that you learn based on what the needs are of, let's say, in this case, the job. Another thing that you can do is mentoring. So if you've been in a particular field for a while, kind of coaching other people who aren't as experienced, or even volunteering, it gives you the opportunity to share what you know to help benefit other people. And it helps you, heal from feeling that you're a fraud. You're not a fraud. You don't know everything, but name me one person who knows everything, guys. You can have experts in the field who are experts because they have a lot of knowledge, but it doesn't necessarily they know everything, because there's so many things that actually change over time. But Can we constantly learn? Yes, we can constantly learn and improve ourselves, but personally, professionally, in our sport. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's when people feel like they're frauds because they don't know everything. That's what makes them the expert in the imposter syndrome category. So I'm not sure if you guys understood all that or had any questions about that, feel free to ask. So overcoming regardless of your category, overcoming any type of imposter syndrome, I want you to remember that imposters don't feel like they belong. So they have to go through this mind thing that they do to themselves. But in order to overcome it, they need to acknowledge their accomplishments. They have a hard time doing that. And that's where they need therapy, because they can't do this on their own. But if they can, it's acknowledging what they've brought to the table. So what I've mentioned to on the Iron Therapy podcast with Dave Palumbo before doing this live is I mentioned a confidence resume. So resume is basically you put your job experience down. Where did you work? How long you were there? And, what did you do? That's a job resume. A confidence resume is a little different. It can talk about certain achievements. It could be when you got your first job. It could be, how did you handle your first conflict? It could be, how did I let my first boyfriend, girlfriend go and get over it? It doesn't have to be a medal or a trophy, but accomplishments. How did you get through something? How did you get through the death of a friend or family member or your first pet? I've done so much grief therapy that's not just people, as to do their pets dying. Because remember, pets are a lot of times, our fur family. They're part of our family. If you have a pet, you understand what I'm talking about. So they're members of the family. And when a loved one dies, regardless, human or animal, we go through a grieving process. So not to get too much off topic, but, it's about saying, how do I overcome some of these things? And sometimes you haven't. And again, that's where the therapist comes in, but the accomplishments are in your confidence resume. So it's basically focusing on your accomplishments, your achievements, rather than comparing yourselves to others. The other piece is not to internalize it. And again, if you're having trouble, learning how to get validation within yourself versus from other people, then let's talk and let's work together through that. So, John, I know I went through the 5, but if you want me to recap them, let me know. But which one do you think that J Masters falls under between the categories? I can go over them really quickly if that helps. But let me know if you want me to review them. Okay, so let me just make sure I don't miss anything. So John, let me just kind of go over the 5, and we'll see which one Jay fits under. So one is what did I have? The perfectionist. Everything has to be perfect. They're worried about measuring up. This is the first thing that actually comes to my mind for Jay. But again, Jay, I don't know Jay Masters, so let me know if that would fit for him. There's also the Superman, in this case, Superman, that they have to push themselves harder, that they feel that they're not legitimate, that they don't measure up to their colleagues. The natural genius was that they have to get everything right on the first try. Everything should just come naturally. They should just be able to hit these numbers right off the bat. The soloist is basically, they don't like asking for help. They want to do everything themselves. Basically, they say, I don't need anyone's help. The expert is the person who believes that they'll never know enough, no matter how many degrees they have, how many workshops, how many certifications, it will never be enough. And it's almost like they're bullying themselves to improve upon. Again, there's a difference between wanting to improve yourself and develop as a person, like personally and professionally, versus I have to do this, otherwise I don't have any legitimacy to what I do. So they downplay it. So basically, it doesn't matter how much education, how much experience they get, it will never be enough, and they will never feel that they're enough in their field. that's the expert. So between those 5, John, which one do you think Jay Masters falls in under? And as you're typing, I'm going to go over some other techniques that people can try. And again, if you can, these are techniques I want you to try on your own, but you may need someone like myself to help you if you're not able to do it on your own. But if you do suffer from imposter syndrome, again, regardless of the category, one is to kind of question yourself. One technique is to question yourself. So every time you have a negative thought, basically, about your abilities, or that you wonder if you're qualified for a job, pause and ask yourself, is this thought actually accurate? Is there any truth behind it? Is this experience, this emotion I'm having, is it real? Or am I just is it the emotion based from me, or is it based on how I think others are perceiving me? Does this thought actually help me, or does it hinder me? So helping to answer those questions could steer you in the right direction if you know how to do that on your own. Again, if you don't, definitely talk to someone like myself that can help you through those responses. Another is reframing your thinking. So basically, let's say, let me think of another job example, because I know a lot of people on the channel aren't necessarily bodybuilders or in athletics. Let's say at work you receive a raise, but you feel a lot of guilt because you believe you didn't deserve it. So you go back. I want you to go back and then really go through your mind based on what happened or what didn't happen that you feel. Okay, let me rephrase this. Why do you feel that you didn't deserve a raise? Basically, back it up with facts, with logic. Did you get positive feedback from your supervisor? What about your rapport with your colleagues? Do they speak highly of you? Do you get along with them? Do you get your work done? Do you show up on time? Have you been loyal to the company? Do you communicate? Do you encourage other people, say, on your team? And you might be saying, yeah, but everyone else does that too. But if no one else is getting the raise, there's something else that you're bringing to the table. What could that be? And again, it's going through the logical sequence, but we don't allow ourselves to go to the direction of giving ourselves compliments. And that's where sometimes working with a professional can help, because we get into our heads and we're, like I said, we're very self-critical. Another is, and I just did bring this up in the show with Dave, is embrace your success. When you do a good job, don't brush it off. Enjoy the moment, please. Let it resonate. You deserve this moment, so enjoy it. Then, after you enjoy it, think about the next accomplishment and then plan to work on that, whatever it might be. It doesn't have to be a bodybuilding show, but it's just whatever the accomplishment could be. It could be work-related, it could be sport-related, it could be something else. It could be a challenge to yourself to saying, hey, I haven't read a book in a while. Maybe I'm going to challenge myself to read a book a week, as an example. It could be little challenges. So whatever you want, challenge yourself. I think that's important, but also embrace when you do succeed. Because sometimes we just think, we were lucky, or that's not a big deal. Anyone can read a book. Well, not everyone does. So again, celebrate even the mini successes. They're important. Because over time, when you are able to celebrate your successes, then you're going to have a more realistic picture of your accomplishments. But when you downplay your accomplishments, it's hard to have them resonate with you, really stick with you. That's why we can resonate with our failures, because those hit us harder, and those are where our thoughts go, and that's what we dwell on. So the more you think about something positive or negatively, you got a choice. That's where your brain's going to go. Now, another is talking it out. This could be with a friend, it could be with a mentor, it could be with a therapist, coach like myself. talking to someone else, just getting the words out can be its own kind of therapy, because when we're on heads, we only take it so far. But when we actually have a conversation or try to express ourselves to somebody else, more information comes out. Because we also have to think about how we present it and make it somewhat coherent. And then we can actually discover things that we didn't when we were just thinking in our heads. The other thing is, when you're talking with someone else, you're also getting an outside perspective. So it's nice getting another opinion, another thought, as far as how you can view the situation in a different way. Because sometimes when you get that outside perspective, it can really challenge you on some unreasonable beliefs that you may have. And it helps you ground in reality. So as an example, today at the gym, because my weight was stagnating despite some recent changes that were made, one of my gym friends reminded me that, and I knew this too, I know this, but it's nice to have the reminder that sometimes change is happening, but it's not necessarily your weight going down, because I'm getting ready for a show, so you want your weight to go down, but your body composition is changing. And I knew this, but it was nice to hear that perspective, because it made it cemented in a little bit harder for me, which is good. I needed that reality check to saying, yeah, you know what? Even though my weight's not going down, my body composition is changing. Because keep in mind, it's not just the weight in the scale. That's why a lot of times coaches will say, give me when you check in. So checking with a coach just means, you touch base with them, you give them your weight. Sometimes they have you answer some questions, and you give them pictures. So it's not just you looking at the number on the scale, you're looking at the composition of your body, what it looks like, and has there been any changes. So your weight could be the exact same week to week, but if your body composition is changing, let's say you're losing more fat but gaining more muscle, then yes, overall the weight's the same, but the composition's different. That's what we want. So it happens to everybody, guys. So hopefully that helps you understand imposter syndrome a little bit as far as what you can do. And like I said, I gave you some suggestions, some techniques on what you can do to help address the imposter syndrome. But if you need help beyond that, just message me. The best way to message me, guys, is actually through my Instagram. So my Instagram account is Lesley T. So LESLEYT_mental_iron. And just send me a message. Just DM me and I'll get back to you. And then we can work together. And then I can send you my, I have a frequently asked question email. It has my pricing, has instructions on how to book. And we can talk about working through whatever it is that you guys are struggling with. So I'm going to wrap it up unless there's something in the chat. So I'm giving you guys, if anyone has any other questions, this is your time. Put them down so I can address them. And if you think about it after the fact, now I appreciate not everyone's going to be able to join because people are working at this time of the day and they might be watching this later. Feel free to message me afterwards when you do watch this podcast and go, like I said, go to my Instagram and DM me. Also, you can put comments below on the YouTube to say that was this helpful or not. Is there something else that you wanted to know about imposter syndrome? Do you have any ideas for future topics? Because again, I have a bunch of topics I'd love to share with you guys, but I also want them to be pertinent for you guys and what you want to know more. So if something is affecting you, I can change my topic and switch the topic to that. So, certainly let me know what works best for you, because I want, again, this channel is for you guys, so I can help you guys. So if there's a topic you want me to cover, whether it's here or with Dave Palumbo on iron therapy, again, just post it below. We're happy. And I'm also obviously open to suggestions as well and constructive criticism. I'm very happy to do that. But yeah, if there's nothing else, then I am going to end the channel for today. But I will try to keep my lives on Mondays after my show with Dave to try to give some consistency. There might be the one-off where I'm not able to, but I will try to keep it. If I can't do it for whatever reason, I will make a post on my YouTube channel when it will be. So from now on, if I don't do a post on YouTube channel, it will automatically be after Iron Therapy on Mondays with Dave Palumbo. We usually do the show on Mondays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The only exceptions, if Monday happens to be a holiday when he has the kids, we can't do the show that day. So either we choose a different day or we just wait till the next Monday because he has so many other good shows. So, but I can always do something here. So again, open to your feedback. Thank you guys for joining me. Any questions, please post them. Any comments, suggestions for future shows. Again, I'm very open to that. So guys, once again, I hope you guys have a great day, and remember to keep your mental game on. Have a great day, everyone. Bye for now.